Many professionals treat capability like a fixed asset, a baseline level of intelligence you are simply born with. When a complex system applies pressure to that baseline, the illusion of static competence shatters. Viewing talent as innate creates a specific vulnerability. When individuals believe their abilities cannot be developed, they begin to avoid complex challenges. Every new task becomes a test of their inherent worth, leading directly to risk aversion and a constant need to protect their ego. This psychological trap was identified and formalized by researcher Dr. Carol Dweck. Her decades of clinical studies moved the concept of human adaptability into the realm of rigorous academic science. Dweck's research establishes mindset as an engineered operating logic, a systematic method for processing information, managing errors, and driving continuous improvement. In a market defined by rapid shifts and unpredictability, relying on static capabilities is a liability. The belief that intelligence cannot scale remains the primary obstacle to organizational resilience. This funnel outlines the mechanics of growth. Level 1 pairs effort with strategy. Level 2 uses the power of yet to frame failure as temporary. Level 3 fosters a love of learning. Level 4 creates a healthy attitude toward setbacks. In a fixed state, individuals internalize failed projects as permanent signals of incompetence, effectively ending the improvement process. Approaching your career requires choosing between these two frameworks. You are either managing a static, depreciating asset, or you are optimizing a continuously developable process. Consider a supply chain planner facing a massive drop in on-time in full, or OTIF, deliveries. OTIF is a supply chain metric measuring whether a customer received exactly what they ordered, precisely when they expected it. A planner operating under a fixed mindset will often try to hide the forecasting error. To preserve their individual status, they will blame external market volatility, insulating their ego from hard data. A planner with a growth mindset treats that exact same missed target as a neutral data signal. They immediately initiate a post-mortem to analyze the gap between the forecast and actual demand, extracting lessons for the next cycle. This response activates a reinforcing loop. It begins with the initial belief that forecasting accuracy, like any ability, can grow over time through targeted effort. That baseline assumption drives the behavior. The planner becomes willing to invest effort and experiment with new modeling techniques because they know improvement is mechanically possible. This experimentation feeds into the third stage, feedback. The planner reflects on the results of the new models, adjusting their algorithms precisely on where the previous predictions failed. Applying that feedback yields a measurable improvement in capability. Better OTEF scores validate the planner's initial hypothesis, strengthening their core belief that growth is possible and starting the cycle over again. Relying on a performance orientation, the need to constantly prove your existing talent, breaks this loop by discouraging operational risk. A learning orientation, focused on improving underlying processes, sustains it. The industrial methodology of Kaizen, or continuous improvement, operates on this exact logic. It is simply the organizational manifestation of a growth mindset reinforcing loop. These frameworks dictate distinct cognitive responses to friction and external criticism, moving the concept into the realm of biological reality. This diagram contrasts the two mindsets using a functional map of the brain. On the left, we see the fixed state, characterized by avoiding challenges and remaining strictly within familiar territory. On the right, we see the growth state, actively viewing those same challenges as opportunities. Looking closely at the fixed hemisphere, notice how it processes input. Because it assumes talent is static, it interprets any constructive feedback or operational failure as a direct personal threat. In the growth hemisphere, that input is processed differently. It embraces constructive feedback and treats failure as a necessary mechanism for skill development, moving toward mastery instead of shrinking from judgment. This cognitive mapping is backed by the biological reality of neuroplasticity. Neuroplasticity is the brain's physical ability to reorganize itself by forming new neural connections throughout life. The first type is structural plasticity. As you accumulate new experiences and memories through repeated effort, the brain literally changes its physical mass and structure to accommodate the new data. The second type is functional plasticity, When a system fails or sustains damage, the brain adapts by rerouting critical functions from the compromised area to an undamaged section. Biology proves the business logic. The human brain is physically constructed to adapt to stress and failure, meaning human capability is never a finished product. Scaling these principles across an enterprise requires embedding them into 3 organizational pillars: education, leadership, and supply chain. Within leadership, managers must dismantle traditional blame cultures and build coaching cultures. In supply chain, teams treat forecast errors not as failures, but as high-fidelity system feedback. At the career level, this framework prioritizes skill stacking. Modern organizations place a higher premium on adaptive learning agility, the speed at which you can acquire new competencies, than on static historical credentials. Educational structures within a company must reflect this. Mastery-based learning models, which require employees to fully comprehend a concept before moving forward, create significantly more resilient workforces than rigid performance-based testing. Complex systems will inevitably encounter friction. The capacity to extract actionable data from that volatility is the only sustainable competitive advantage an organization possesses. There is a dangerous vulnerability in how this framework is applied. The false growth mindset occurs when management merely praises an employee's effort while leaving broken, inefficient systems entirely intact. Telling someone to simply try harder without equipping them with better tools is an operational failure. True adaptation requires a rigorous, clinical acknowledgement of systemic failure, separating growth mindset from the hollow optimism of toxic positivity. Blind optimism cannot replace the required formula. Growth only occurs when targeted effort is combined with strategic execution and honest feedback loops. The mechanics are straightforward. Ability is developable. Failure is an objective data signal, and deploying a concrete strategy is mandatory. Look at your own operational bottlenecks. Identify the specific areas where you are avoiding a difficult challenge simply to protect your professional image. Building systems capable of continuous improvement requires growth mindset to function as a foundational operating logic.